Hi, boys and girls. Today will be Thursday when you see this. So for today's reading lesson, it's going to be a 2-day assignment. So it's due Friday, okay? That means you can choose how you want to manage your time. Some of you might get it all done today. Others, it might be really smart to just split the assignment in half, okay? So what the assignment entails is it starts on page 274 in your RCC book. Now remember, we haven't been answering the questions in our book because that would be really hard for teachers to grade. So you are answering them on the doc, okay? There will be a doc attached that's called Thursday RCC. That's where I want you to put your answers. Okay, the reason I'm giving you 2 days for this assignment is because it is kind of long, okay? So I'm going to read through this passage, and it might take a little while, okay? So I'm not going to stop lots of times and explain too many things. I just want to read it aloud to you so that you can at least hear it and follow along once, and then it will be your job to go back in and reread for the questions, okay? Since I am reading this to you once, it really shouldn't be a big deal for you to read it through again, okay? Because I'm going to help you out with some unfamiliar words and things like that. So please make sure when you go to do the questions, you do some rereading. It would be really hard if you just listened to me read it once and then boom, did all the questions. That would be crazy. I'd be like really surprised, okay? So I'm going to read it through kind of quickly, and then you'll go back in and read it again. I remember that right now I'm focusing on figurative language. So I'll be thinking of that type of language that explains something in a new and sometimes strange way, okay? I'm going to be thinking about how that makes me feel too, because I know figurative language can sometimes make people feel a certain way, okay? So, this story is called From David and the Phoenix, and it has a little blurb up top that's going to be important to read, okay? So please make sure you're open to page 274. I usually have it here too. In your RCC book, if you need a minute, pause me. If not, I'm going to get started, okay? So I'm going to read the blurb up top first. This is from the first chapter of a novel about a boy whose family moves into a new home near a mountain. In the chapters that follow, the boy goes hiking on the mountain and meets a strange bird called a phoenix, a famous creature from mythology. Throughout the novel, the boy and the phoenix share exciting adventures together. Okay, so that just told me that this is chapter 1 of a whole novel, okay? So it's just going to kind of be the opening scenes. And I know that this boy is going to meet a bird called a phoenix. It also tells me in the corner here that this genre is fantasy. So I know fantasy is fiction, right? Fantasy is not true. Sometimes it can be about mythical creatures or fairies or animals talking and crazy stuff like that, okay? So we'll keep that in mind as well. I'm going to start paragraph 1. All the way there, David had saved this moment for himself, struggling not to peek until the proper time came. When the car finally stopped, the rest of them got out stiffly and went into the new house. But David walked slowly into the backyard, with his eyes fixed on the ground. For a whole minute he stood there, not daring to look up. He took a deep breath, clenched his hands tightly, and lifted his head. Next page. Paragraph 2. There it was, as Dad had described it, but infinitely more grand. It swept upward from the valley floor, beautifully shaped and soaring, so tall that its misty blue peak could surely talk face to face with the stars. To David, who had never seen a mountain before, the sight was almost too much to bear. He felt so tight and shivery inside that he didn't know whether he wanted to laugh or cry or both. And the really wonderful thing about the mountain was the way it looked at him. Do mountains really look? No. He was certain that it was smiling at him like an old friend who had been waiting for years to see him again. And when he closed his eyes, he seemed to hear a voice which whispered, "Come along, then, and climb." So, just a little summary at first. I know there's this boy. He's moving into a new home. He went into the backyard, and his dad had told him there was going to be a mountain in the backyard. And he looked up at the mountain, and he was amazed. He had never seen one before, okay? So he's so excited to see this mountain. He's using some figurative language to describe how it looks like the mountain is smiling at him, right? Almost like welcoming him in. It's as if the mountain is saying, "Come along then and climb," okay? See how that makes you feel? Like this boy is excited for his new adventure. Even though he had to move into a new home, he is finding a positive in this, and he is going to be really excited about this mountain, okay? Let's see what happens. So it's paragraph 3 now. But there was a great deal to do first. They were going to move into the new house. The moving van was standing out front. The car must be unloaded. David would need to carry things. Regretfully, he waved his hand at the peak and whispered, "Shouldn't take long. I'll be back as soon as I can." Then he went around to the front door to see what could be done about speeding things up. Paragraph 4. Inside, everything was in confusion. Dad was pushing chairs and tables around in an aimless way. Mother was saying, "That'll have to go out again. We forgot to put down the first rug." Aunt Amy was making short dashes between the kitchen and the dining room, muttering to herself, and Becky was roaring in her crib because it was time for her bottle. David asked, "Can I do anything?" hoping the answer would be no. Paragraph 5. "Come here," Aunt Amy said, grabbing him by the arm. "Help me look for that ironing board." Next page. When the ironing board was finally located, Mother had something for him to do. And when he was finished with that, Dad called for help. So the afternoon wore on without let-up, and also without any signs of progress in their moving. When Dad finally got a chance to sneak out for a breathing spell, he felt his heart sink. Somehow, in all the rush and confusion, the afternoon had disappeared. Already the evening sun was throwing shadows across the side of the mountain and touching its peak with a ruddy blaze. It was too late now. He would have to wait until the morning before he could climb. Paragraph 7. As he gazed up miserably at the glowing summit, he thought he saw a tiny speck soar out from it in a brief circle. Was it a bird of some sort? Or just one of those dots that swim before your eyes when you stare too long at the sky? It almost seemed like the mountain waving its hand, as if to say that it was quite all right for him to wait until morning. He felt better then, and returned more cheerfully to moving. Paragraph 8. It was long after dark before the moving van drove away. Becky crooned happily over her bottle, and the rest of them gathered in the kitchen for a late supper of sandwiches and canned soup. But David could not eat until he had found the courage to ask one question. "May I climb the mountain tomorrow?" Aunt Amy muttered something about landslides, which were firmly fixed in her mind as the fate of people who climbed mountains. So landslides, it's a natural disaster where rocks and mud slide down a mountain very fast, and it's very dangerous. But Dad said, "I don't see why not. Do you?" And he looked to Mother for agreement. Mother said, "Well, be very careful," in a doubtful tone. And that was that. All right. On this page, we can see the beautiful mountain, right? That's waving to David, waiting for him to climb it. Okay. So now you are going to take a look at the questions that I put in the doc, okay? Go through them a little bit. See what they're going to be asking about. Then you're going to go back into the text and reread it on your own. If you want to read it to someone, you could ask an adult in your home, or you can ask one of us, Mrs. Silva or I, to help you, okay? So go ahead and get that submitted. Actually, it's due Friday though. Remember that. So don't rush. Bye.